Hello and welcome to another edition of Monday Morning Manager. We are here to talk about the Arsenal fixture. My name is Dylan Meehan. I am a writer for City Extra. I am joined once again by the amazing Philcaso. Thank you. First off, just want to ask how you're doing.
I'm uh I'm tired from the stress from that second half. Yeah, it was a lot. I'm sure you felt the same.
Yeah. One of the more confusing City matches that I can ever remember for a variety of reasons, which we will get into. Yeah, I guess just more first. Let's just take more of a thousand mile stare, not 1,000 mile stare. I'm just gonna let's just kind of zoom out and take a look at it from as wide of a view as possible. How do you feel about the match? A, from a performance, and then also B, as a result, in the sense of if you were told that it was a 1-1 devoid of context, then obviously with what we know with what happened in the match.
I think the result was overall largely okay. I tweeted it earlier. I think with the injury situation that we have going on with our attackers, you have Marmoush out, you have Turkey out, you have Ryan Aitnery out. I think that those are three players that you would expect to be fighting for that first 11 slot in a game like today, and to not even have them as options off the bench, I think really did hamper us in attack, and I think it informed the style and the method that we attempted to play with today. I think that if you're going to go off of just the performance, I think you have to split it almost because if you take into account just the performance in the context of the Guardiola era in general and at large, I think that you look at that performance, you say that is not Guardiola. That is the most anti-Guardiola, anti-Pep style play you'll ever see out of a team. I mean, it was Dyche, it wasn't Pep at all. It was you get the ball and
I am
clear it
Jose Mourinho.
anywhere. Yeah, literally get the ball out anywhere and huck it towards Haaland and Doku and see if we can get on it. If you acknowledge the fact that that was most likely our strategy going in, I think that we were overall largely effective at executing this strategy. I think that the goal comes from a couple of minor mistakes that were absolutely capitalized on by Arsenal to the maximum degree possible. That one ball over the top happens at the one moment that our midfield separates from our back line and leaves space for something like that to happen. So, you know, that's already rather unlikely. That finish is unreal from Martinelli. And Donnarumma makes his first mistake of his City career as well, coming off the line. So it's just like all of these things happen at once to undo us in a situation where we largely played a style for the first time ever and to a very good level, in my opinion, in the way that we played. Now, I know that City aren't going to get a lot of credit, and our fan base isn't going to really fall in love with this style at all, but I would caution a lot of criticism, just given the fact that a lot of other teams play this style against us and do get a lot of praise for getting a result like this. And I think that our team sees and our players see that. And I think that they're largely okay with getting a result like this. I mean, if you just read the quotes after the match, a lot of these guys, they're talking about a hard earned point and stuff like this. That's code speak to me for we're very okay with what happened, but we don't want to say that this is exactly, what we were okay with because it's a draw and that's not our expectations really. So yeah, I think that I'm definitely not walking away with my head down. I think a lot of people are, but maybe I would say that those people will have the tendency to have their head down anyways. So yeah, I think it was good. What do you think?
It's the stereotypical happy with the result without knowing, and then with the context, it's terrible. I was kind of confused as to, okay, was this the plan from the jump, or was this something that happened just because of the match? Because like John McKenzie had kind of posted a thread after and had linked it to Guardiola's comments, because Guardiola's post-game comments made it seem like this was something that was almost more so like an adjustment or something they had to do because Arsenal were so good at controlling the match. But from early on, they were hoofing it forward. Like from the moment they took the lead, it would feel like, I specifically remember at one point Foden grabbing it and like sending it he sent it to like the corner of midfield, and there wasn't a City player anywhere nearby. And I don't have the exact timestamp. I have no idea exactly when it was, but I just remember like in my head being like, well, that's weird. Like I can't think of a time that especially someone like Foden would do that. Like I've sometimes seen where someone's not as comfortable on the ball, and it just made me feel like this was going to be almost from not the jump, but they were like, this is what we're going to do, and we're just going to have to claw out the point because You mentioned it not being, like Pep ball. So the total percentage number, just to give some of the few sets I have, it's 32.8. That was the City's possession. It is the lowest by a Pep Guardiola team, not by a Manchester City Pep Guardiola team, by a Pep Guardiola team in a top flight match in his 601st professional match as a manager. And then that Arsenal number from March 2023, which is I think is a match that like all City fans can remember, but that was 36.5%. So this was still significantly less percentage than that. Maybe not significantly, but 10% less. It's it to me was so noticeable and strange. And I don't hate it as a as an overall idea. It was weird. It was weird to see Haaland drop back as like a fifth center back before Ake came on, which granted he did that a little bit in the United match as well, but this felt different. But to see City play essentially a 5-5-0 at times or like a 5-4-1 with like just Doku up front once Haaland came out, it was just strange. And if they won, I think we'd be praising it. We'd be saying, this is unbelievable. This is what you have to do. Way to grab a result. And look, a little bit of magic from that Eze ball and the finish. I mean, that Martinelli finish is unbelievable. And people are giving Donnarumma a lot of just they're criticizing him a lot for that decision. But I don't think you could expect Martinelli to finish that with Guardiola like closing down on him for him to just flick it up like that. It was an unbelievable finish.
I think that if it wasn't intentional for us to play this way going into the match, it makes me feel worse about it because I don't
Yeah,
even feel like we tried to really possess the ball. If that's us trying to possess the ball, that really worries me. That makes me feel like way, way worse because
yeah.
if it was intentional, I see it. We dropped off. We played a mid block from the 5th minute till like we went to a five at the back and played a low block. So we pressed for like 5 minutes of this match. If that's us trying to own territory and possess the ball, then we have much bigger problems than I would assume. So I'm just going to assume that this is another Pep lie. I mean, I hate to
Yeah,
say it, but he's not very truthful in these pressers. So
totally.
I think that it probably was a strategy, and he probably just doesn't want to. I don't know, have that. He plays games, I feel like, with the players in these press conferences, with their mentality and stuff. He drops little tidbits, and I almost feel like he doesn't want this to become part of our identity that the players identify with publicly in any way and feel a need to, I don't know, play this super defensive ball because a lot of his quotes after the match were that he doesn't care about the result. He just wants better performances and that we were dysfunctional in building up and dysfunctional in possession. And I don't know. I just took a lot of that to just be media, whatever, media training, just telling everybody
Yeah.
what they need to hear, what they want to hear, because I don't know. The strategy seemed quite clear to me. Get it to Doku, get it to Haaland, find Reinders, try to run. I mean, and it's effective. I mean, we had a couple of chances doing it this way. It's not only that first chance with the Reinders. Haaland should have played the ball across the face of goal for Foden on that fast
Yeah.
break. That is a goal if he's just not greedy and whatever. I get it, right? This guy, even if you don't believe he's the best striker in the world, he believes he's the best striker in the world, and the best striker in the world takes that shot. I get it.
He's also in arguably the best form of his career. Like, even though weirdly, out the stat that this was like the worst start to his City career, which I could not believe, but it was when you factor in his club and country stats. I mean, he's just been on fire. So it did remind me the pass. It seemed like it was going to be similar to the United pass, which we talk about all the time. It feels like on this show, but it really did feel like it was in the position to play a similar ball to what that was in the treble season. But
Yeah, it's like
that
nine
and then the
goals. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just say 9 goals in like 4 games or something
I
like
think
that. It's
so.
it's
Yeah,
it's really
yeah.
high. I mean, he is. You're right. He's in absolute screaming form. So
So we mentioned the amount of goals, we mentioned the form that he's in, we mentioned the chance that he had to potentially either create for Foden. He ended up taking it himself. Overall, how do you feel about how Haaland has started the season, and how do you think he played in this match overall?
I think Holland. He had a lot to answer for after last season. I don't think that he had a really good season last year for his standards. I mean, obviously for most strikers, it's maybe the best season of their life. But for Erling Haaland, there's a completely different level of expectation, not only from us but for him, for himself. So I think that with Isak, especially going to Liverpool, this puts a lot of pressure on Haaland to maintain his status as the undisputed, number 1 9 in the division. So I think that he has risen to that challenge. And I think that today was another opportunity for him to show, and he did. He absolutely did. I think that his hold up play and his willingness to just fight tooth and nail with Saliba and Gabriel for 90 minutes every single time he comes up against them is very admirable, and he did it again today. So obviously, we talked about the ball across the face that he didn't play to Foden, but the goal that he scored initially is just pure Haaland in the way that no other striker is probably even getting a shot off there. He completely burns Gabriel down the field. If you watch it,
It's fantastic. It is the wide view or the behind view is fantastic.
like Gabriel's given it everything he's got. Like he's full tilt and he just can't even gain an inch. He's losing ground on Haaland, who is also watching Reinders and watching the back line. And you can tell Haaland's doing a lot of other stuff, he's not even taking every step purposefully towards goal. He's doing some, maneuvering of his position, and he's still just absolutely unable to be kept up with. And I think that this is an underrated somehow aspect of Haaland is just obviously maybe it's not underrated, but maybe I just don't feel like it's talked about enough. The fact that his physicality is beyond elite and beyond, I don't know, it's unable to be coped with by any defense and any defender once you're put in that type of scenario where it's almost 1v1, which it was with Saliba today. He had to make a choice between Reinders and Haaland, and I don't know. Saliba always seems to make the wrong choice when Haaland's in transition. I remember last year at the Etihad, he did the same thing, but um, yeah, Haaland was exceptional today. I don't know what you think about him.
I don't know how there can be anything other than praise for him. I think that it was nice to see, City have been there's been this transition transition to a transition team has kind of been what the past, few weeks have felt like, especially with bringing in Pep Linders. And without De Bruyne, I was almost a little worried of like, okay, well, how are City going to kind of be on the break? And it's not that I don't think Foden can do that. It's just we haven't really seen Foden have to like carry the ball and play it like that. And to see Reinders do it and do it so smoothly, I guess that was really reassuring. As like, this is definitely something that City can do, and we're able to do it against one of the two or three best teams in the league. So in that way, it's super encouraging. And then yeah, just from Haaland overall, I mean, separate from his absolutely elite finishing ability, not only is it his physicality, and then it's also just the understanding and reading of the game. Like when you look at his offside numbers, they're like borderline non-existent. He just has an unbelievable ability to control his body and like sprinting and knowing like when to, not even like, I don't want to say like slow down, but if it's like, okay, if I'm going at 100, now I'm going to go at 95 or 90% like total capacity to not go past that, threshold. And if he continues playing like this, I mean, it's just going to be, I feel like this could easily be another 40 or 50 goal season for him. I mean, he's just, and strictly talking about City, like just not mentioning like country, which I think he's continued to, going to bang goals in like crazy. But this feels different than last year. And granted, for a variety of reasons, but like he does seem to be at another level.
Yeah, I think that we talked about it last week about the forgetting about last season, just completely writing it off and things starting to, I don't know, your perception of City players become much more favorable and much more in line with how they're performing this season. And I think that obviously that's true with Holland. I mean, with somebody who the system is completely based around, if the system goes completely, to garbage like it did last year, it's obviously going to affect him to a major degree. Obviously, he was a part of it. I think him, Foden, were not only victims of it but perpetuators of this issue. But I think that this year with it fixed, I mean, like you said, he's this is Ballon d'Or, top three level stuff. I think that yeah, I think that this is the level you want Haaland to play at, and beyond the goal scoring, it's the level you want Haaland to play at. He's doing the things that he was always criticized. We talked about Roy Keane last week in the League Two player comments. You can't call this version of Haaland, even if he doesn't score, a League Two striker. That's not even a criticism that will play in the most rage baity of spaces because he's dropping deep, as you said. He is, holding the ball up. He's playing good passes. He's even dribbling a little bit, like in some of these matches. So I don't know. I'm really pleased with where he's going, and I'm really pleased with the synergy that he's developing up top a lot with players like Doku, which
Yeah.
who I also thought had an amazing match. So yeah, I think that it needs to continue. It needs to continue to trend in this direction, especially with the matches we have coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to mention Doku, so last week we talked about how the third season jump is the new standard because of obviously, wanting to maybe disregard that second season. Just to pull up some of the Doku stats, I think this is from Squawka. So against Arsenal, Jeremy Doku had the most duels won at 13, most successful take-ons with 5, most tackles with 4, most touches in the opposition box for 3, most fouls won 3, and most chances created 2. You couple that with how he looked against Napoli, with just overall how he started to look a little bit more comfortable over the past few weeks. And look, I think both of us are fans of Omar Marmoush, but I think it's very hard for him. A, obviously, I know he's hurt, but B, it's hard for him to get on when Doku is playing this well. And so I know you haven't always been the most, I guess, pro Doku. I don't think you've ever been super anti Doku, but I'm just curious how you feel about this jump that we're seeing from him.
It's I'm gonna make a graphic about him, so I have these stats kind of memorized in my head, but it's the percentages for me on these duels and these dribbles. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, 12 for 18 on ground duels and 5 for 7 on your dribbles is ridiculous. I mean, those are numbers that only Jerry, you're looking at the very elite. You're looking at Jeremy
Yeah,
Doku, you're looking at Lamine Yamal on a big night. Like these are the types of players that give you this type of stats. I mean, you talked about the leap. I mean, I think there absolutely has been a leap in his play and his mentality towards play and his not only his decisiveness, but he's got that dog in him now more than he did before. He's willing to go out there and fight and scrap. I don't know. I also feel like the style that we've talked about with this more transitional style really suits him. I always used to think that when
totally.
I watched him for Belgium, because Belgium would always be, they don't play the low blocks like City play. Like teams are willing to play in international football a lot more, and you always see Doku having these amazing performances in international break to where he is freed on the break to have one or two guys in transition that if he beats, it's decisive. And we're seeing more of these situations for him today. He had that. He had a couple of situations like that today. One where he played Haaland in that led to the Foden chance or the you know
Should have
potential
been
for the
Foden
foot.
chance.
Yeah, exactly. Doku did the hold up play for that, dribbled and played the kind of reverse ball for that, which was absolutely outstanding. But also the chance that he had on goal to where he was played into space and he had that opportunity where it's him, one fullback, and the center back inside, and that's it. That's him at the end, and he gets to goal. I have complete faith in him in those moments to get to goal or get to a chance or create something for somebody else. I'm also thinking of the Rodri chance that Rodri put over the top of the bar that Doku had dribbled all the way there. I think that this new style really suits Haaland, Doku, Marmoush, even when he comes back, Savinho. You had mentioned Foden isn't really, he's not really that type of player. So I think it's really nice that we have these other types of players that can be these big space monsters and just really create problems for teams on these big nights where there's going to be a lot of space in behind and stuff. So, yeah, I think that Doku has been exceptional. You mentioned Marmoush getting back in the team. I think he's got to look at other spots to get back in the team currently. I think you're looking at playing him next to Holland
Yeah.
probably to get him back in the team. Obviously, Doku has an injury history. He will have to be managed in terms of load. So he's not going to play every game on the left wing. So there will obviously be opportunities, but I don't know. The left wing is getting spicy, I would say. I think Savinho has been brought on there both times that he's played. Well, I guess today it was that weird role. I mean, he came
Yeah.
on for Doku. He was like for like, but they were alone up top. But last match he was brought on left at the left wing, and I think that's where he's going to be stuck as well. So I just think there's a lot of competition over there because on the right wing, when Cherky comes back, he's going to be looking out there. Foden obviously played out there. Bob, Bernardo. I mean, it's loaded as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, I think that I tweeted out, go lock down your spot, big man, to Doku after the last game in Napoli. I very much think that he is well on the way to doing so. I mean, if he maintains this level, he's got to play 50 matches a season. I mean,
Yeah.
this was top in a top match. I mean, this is all you ever asked from Jeremy Doku. Can't complain.
Yeah, the I think the only thing is just making sure he stays healthy. Is like that's just at this point it's glad to see with how much Pep basically trusted him. And at times, and I've said this before, it really just felt like Pep was like, you're going to create everything this match, which I think was very frustrating for City fans. And I got it. But I also think it spoke to Pep being like, no, feed him the ball and feed him the ball and feed him the ball. And to kind of see it start to click, it's like, it feels like when Neo realizes he's the one in the Matrix. Like it's just everything is, he sees the code in the world and it's just all starting to click together. And yes, please just stay healthy. Please it seems like you're taking everything seriously. I don't think that your injuries are necessarily because you weren't taking things seriously, but just stretch everything, recover, do all of it. The Riyadh pasta, all of it. I just want all of it to be up to 100%.
All these other teams better pray to God that it doesn't really click for him, because it's clicking, but there is another level that this could click. His ball striking in the box, exceptional. His ability to get to these shots is still developing. Even in this stage
Yeah.
where it's clicking, he's still developing his sense around goal, around the mouth of goal, getting to his spots in these tight areas. If that really clicks, I don't want to get too hyperbolic about it, but I with his physical tools, if the mental side clicks, you're looking at like a top 5 guy in the
Yeah.
league
I mean,
type
he
of player.
easily other than like Lamine Yamal, who I just think is on another level. There is potential for him to be one of the 3 or 4 best wingers in the world. Like other
Absolutely.
than like that being the absolute upper echelon. I don't think it's anything that's too crazy to say. Outside of Doku, I guess someone who I actually kind of want to highlight, and I feel like it's been under talked about. I have not been super on City Twitter today, just based on me being working, but I was really, really impressed with Nico O'Reilly. And not even as much as on the ball, I always thought that he's been pretty solid, but I thought that defensively he was absolutely fantastic. And for played striker or attacking midfielder for most of his developmental career to now just be like making like sound tackles, like doing a great job of just like playing players to the byline, being super patient and not like just sticking a leg in. I'm unbelievably impressed with how quickly he seems to be getting comfortable in that left back spot. And I know you've been critical. I don't want to say critical. You've had some critiques for him, and I'm just kind of curious how you feel about his performance.
Yeah, I think that my critiques I had a couple of critiques to begin last season after seeing him in preseason. I just didn't think that he was quite ready. By the end of last season, I was on the record saying that I think this is a future 100 million pound midfielder. I think
Yeah,
that when he hits, I mean, with the physical, this guy is ridiculous. If you actually like break down his profile, it's absurd. As you said, the defensive work rate is coming in, and that's like a bonus on top of a bonus with the profile that you have. But this guy is huge. He's huge. He has short legs and a long torso, which means he dribbles like a shorter player, even though he's like 6'4". He has the skills of a 10 because that's what he played in the academy all growing up, 10 and 9. So he is elite around the box. And you see this with the runs that he makes from left back coming inside and basically making these strikers runs. I know he scored that goal at the end of the Premier League season last year where he cuts across, maybe it was Haaland to steal the ball and to
yeah, yeah.
poke it in. And like those are like instinctual finishes that you only get from growing up in this type of role and stuff. So absolutely, he is sensational. I think that his future role is probably sitting next to Rodri because, I mean, if you just imagine a player with 10 skills who can run in duel like Nico O'Reilly runs in duels, uh, okay, I'll take it. Like you can't really beat that. And I mean, what really needs to develop for Nico O'Reilly right now is just his mental side of the game and his calmness. And I think that is taking steps up today. I mean, he was in a couple of situations with Madueke today to where Madueke had him under a lot of pressure in the box. He had beaten him basically to the byline, and he didn't panic. He didn't panic, and I think that that's super key because that doesn't always happen for players to where they develop this calmness. I mean, if you look at a player like Mateus Nunes, who plays on the other side in a very similar role with a very similar upbringing, you do not see this calmness from him. I think that any City fan will tell you that. So, yeah, I think that by the end of this season, I would ideally like to see him getting minutes in midfield to
Yeah.
to do this type of box to box role because I don't know. I've heard a lot of people. You said you hadn't been on City Twitter a lot today. A lot of people talking about well, I don't see Ryan Aitner getting his spot back, and I don't really see them as complete like for likes. Ryan Aitner for me profiles as a fullback who's a winger hybrid, basically, versus Nico O'Reilly, who's a box to box inverting type of pivot type of fullback. So I don't know. I really see them
Yeah, I think those are
as
just wildly different players. I just don't. They're going to have their own. They're going to have their own uses depending on the opposition.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I'm really impressed with Nico O'Reilly. I'm not changing my stance at all. This guy is very much a part of City's future. Would not surprise me to see him be a first 11 type of player over the course of his career. Great pairing with Foden at 10. Great pairing with Turkey, that type of small space players who need legs behind them, need duelers to protect them. I don't know. I think he's a top prospect, top player right now. I would I would expect him to get a lot more minutes coming up. I mean, especially with Ryan Aitner being out, I wouldn't expect him to be
Yeah,
dropped. Maybe he won't play in the midweek in the cup game because he's played a lot recently, but I would expect him to be right back in at the next weekend.
yeah, absolutely. I think. I mean, I don't think. I think this lineup overall, barring, and I haven't seen what's been said about Kusanov, but my assumption was that he was taken off injured. I've yet to see any comments on it, but
He
I don't
was.
think the fact that Nunez was coming on. I mean, I was having heart palpitations seeing, him getting back. I really did think I didn't think his City career was inherently like we would never see him again, but it did kind of feel like the Fabian Delph after him getting that red card against I think it might have been Wigan, where it was just like, oh, you're done. This is the end.
Yeah, I'm
And
just. Yeah,
go.
sorry. I was just gonna say I'm not really sure what the situation for Mateus Nunes is going forward, other than if Kusanov's injured. Because if we're going to play a more defensive fullback, we're just going to play Kusanov. If we're going to go up against a low block and play a fullback that we need to do a lot of stuff in possession over there, we're going to play Rico Lewis.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I don't know.
I think that's exactly what it is. I think as long as Rico and Kusanov can stay healthy, I just think that, yeah, Nunez will get shuffled back somewhere. I don't think it's going to be Wolves because Wolves fans do not seem to like him based on how that transfer went down. So I don't know.
Atletico, he's
Yeah,
well on the way.
maybe.
Yeah,
Honestly, he could fit that profile. I could see. I don't know, but that's a just thing trying to find a team for him at that point because I do just think that, yeah, as long as Kusanov and Rico are able to consistently be healthy enough for the club to feel like they can move on. But yeah,
yeah. I mean, forget about the midfield with him. I mean, he is so
yeah.
far down the pecking order. So yeah, just gotta figure it out, I guess.
Can we talk about Rodri?
We can always talk about Rodri. What a player, to be honest. I mean, just the last couple of matches, the Napoli compilation that I watched of his passing is like this guy's the best passing midfielder on the planet in terms of controlling the tempo and just absolutely being a pressure valve in our back line. I mean, he's made a couple of, rusty little errors here and there, but I don't even care. It doesn't matter at all. This guy obviously walks into any team in the world, but you build the team around him. I mean, this guy, he's unreal in terms of if you were to build a holding midfielder in the lab, it would be Rodri. He covers ground, he duels, he passes the ball, he scores goal. He hasn't scored this season, but the threat is always there. He had that shot against Napoli to where he tested the keeper very much down to his lower right hand side. So exceptional. I think that he is all the way back to the level he was at previously. I can't believe it's almost blasphemous to me to even think that we questioned if he's gonna come back to the level. His game is so not predicated on athleticism at all that it doesn't matter anything. I mean, honestly, he's so future proof. This guy's game is going to develop very well. It wouldn't surprise me. He's got probably another 5 years at least at City
Yeah,
playing as our starting holding mid. So exceptional. What a player. And Arsenal's midfield really didn't know how to deal with him when he had the ball, or even in defending today. He had so many clearances. I think that that's super underrated about him as well as we always knew that DS and our center backs aerial percentages were super low, but we never really, I feel like, felt it in matches that much because Rodri is so
yeah,
dominant in the air. He was again today. He is exceptional.
yeah. I feel like he's not close to 100% yet, and that's not in a bad way. I just think that he just needs more fitness. I think the whole squad overall, a little bit, and I can mention that in just a sec, but his presence is just felt no matter what. And I think that it is so clearly night and day compared to what City were like last season. And I'm way more optimistic and I'm way more hopeful now compared to like when we were talking about the week from hell prep that we were doing and how nervous after these three matches. A lot of that has honestly washed away. And I know there's been all that talk of like they came in back from the international break and it was like new vibes and all of that. And I think it just very clearly has changed. And the only other thing, which I think kind of to mention as well, is I'm just worried overall about the squad's fitness. And just from a pure, it just feels like after 60 to 70 minutes, it's just, it's a disaster. It just, everyone looks absolutely gassed. And especially after like three consecutive matches in a week of this same exact lineup, like I can understand how a team would be tired, but it's the same way in every match, no matter what. And my guess is it's a time thing. And by, January, February, March, April, we've seen this happen so many times where they just look so much more alive. But it is quite worrisome of just like consistently them dropping their performance after an hour.
Yeah, I think that you saw that obviously with Rodri. Ruben Diaz mentioned in his, presser after the match that you could see it on Rodri after like 70 minutes. You could see how tired he was. And I agree with that. You could definitely see how sluggish it was. But he's not the only one. I mean, I think you see this with all the players who spent a lot of last season recovering or not in good form. I mean, Foden today, after about 60 minutes, I'm a huge Foden fan. Obviously, I was saying we got to get him off the pitch. I mean, it was a super taxing role. Obviously, him and Doku basically did wingback shifts
Yeah.
for a large portion of today. They were basically defenders. So I think that, yeah, I think that there is a lot of fatigue, and the lack of preseason really did harm us in that way in terms of not being able to get up to full fitness and guys being at the Club World Cup. I don't know. It's just a lot of stuff that led us to not really being in peak form in that way, as you said, in terms of fitness, especially with certain players. So yeah, I think that, like you said, it will build up over time. Obviously, this won't be an issue in January, and if it is an issue in January, then we need to buy new players, you know. So, but obviously, yeah, obviously, it needs to improve.
Yeah. Time will tell.
Absolutely.
And then I guess probably the last thing to mention is just Foden and Bernardo, how they have looked. We have been Bernardo is an interesting figure. I would say, a club legend. He is one of the first people you think of when you think of the Pep era, and yet is someone that when he's on the team sheet and played currently in the role that he's played, I think there's a lot of chagrin from City fans. You fired off a tweet though that I thought was really interesting and I agreed with, and I'm just kind of curious to hear what you think about Bernardo Silva.
Yeah, a lot of people when they see the team sheet and it's Bernardo and Foden both on it, the mind starts to wander. Which is going to be which? Is it going to be which is going to be the 10? Which is going to be the right wing? And I think people are preemptively either happy or upset as soon as they see them walk out to the kickoff and see where each one of them is standing. But today, and normally I would be upset if Foden was on the right wing and Bernardo was in the middle. But today I get it. I really do get it. Especially mentioning the fitness issues that we had mentioned with Foden earlier. I don't think that he has it in him at the moment. I think that he's capable as a player of doing this, but at the moment, I'm really not sure he has it in him to do what Bernardo did today.
Yeah.
Bernardo was a rabid dog out there. He was everywhere. He was pressing the back line. He was pressing and defending, doubling up on both wingers on both sides. He was man marking Declan Rice. Like the guy did like 5 roles today, and that is what Bernardo gives you in these matches.
Yeah.
That makes his value crystal clear to me. He is the press. He is what keeps us compact. Without him, I don't. I think we are 10 times easier to play through. I think that we probably concede a couple of goals if you don't have Bernardo to just screw everything up in the midfield for the other team to make other people's lose their head, like with Trossard today. I think that things like that really do matter in matches like this, to where Arsenal thinks they're going to have it their own way at home, and he just shows up and just messes up the little things, and I think that that has a larger cascading effect. So while a match like this probably punishes Foden and probably makes it, I don't know, he's not utilized probably well at all, and this is a bad match for him. But it's not really, because, like I was thinking at halftime, it's ugly what they were doing to Doku and Foden in terms of tactically, but it was effective in terms of getting, this is all under the assumption that we showed up to play this way, but it was absolutely effective in stifling Arsenal in the wide channels in the half spaces that they normally dominate, albeit no Odegaard and no Saka relationship to play those type of half space passes. But I don't know if it really would have made a difference with the number of bodies that we were packing into those spaces and how tuned in we were. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
And I
that
don't think Saka
Bernardo.
was that good when he came on either. I don't think Saka. I honestly could barely even tell that he was on the pitch. And I don't mean that
Well,
in like some kind of super disrespectful way. He's clearly a very good player. But when it was like, oh, Eze and Saka are coming on at halftime, I was like, oh shit. But it did not really have the impact that I would expect.
I think that speaks a little bit to what you said earlier about Nico O'Reilly being a top tier
Yeah.
defender, and then also we have we have the Saka solution on our squad in Nathan Ake. We've seen it
Yeah.
over the years. He's got nothing for him. I mean, that, like you said, it's no disrespect. Saka's obviously a top whatever player in this league. His numbers speak for themselves, but when he comes up against Nathan Ake, it's a mismatch. And Nico O'Reilly was absolutely up to the task again today. So yeah, I don't know. I think that to move beyond just Bernardo's work rate, I think the overall team's work rate and the way that they dug in today was super impressive. It was
Yeah.
the 5-5-0, as you said, was Atleti-esque. The way that they did. I mean, we've seen this setup that we deployed today, deployed against us. I've seen it 100 times. Maybe that's why it didn't feel so weird. It felt weird because it was my team doing it, but it didn't feel weird because I've seen this tactic played out over matches so many times. So I don't know. I was super impressed with the team unity and the ability of the back line to remain connected. I don't know. It was very good work rate and stuff like that. The heart that you'd want to see, the faces. Pep talked about the happy faces. He always talks about the happy faces, and they were there.
Yeah. It's just like I guess I was just surprised to see it. That's really just what it is. I'm just shocked to see a City team play that way, and that's just the only thing that I can kind of play it as I wasn't against it. I was just like, this is a weird feeling, especially in the Pep era, for it to be like so pragmatic. And look, and it almost worked, and it really did. And yeah, that's really all it is.
For what it's worth, I don't think that any. Oh, sorry. I
No,
was just
you're
gonna
good.
say
Go.
I, I don't think that any other team can do that to us. I think Arsenal are the only team with the
Yeah,
personnel, probably in the world, that can do that to us. They have the technical security and the physical floor that they can absolutely punish us and pin us. So yeah, I wouldn't expect to see anything like that again.
yeah. Moving forward. Look, so the next matches we've got Huddersfield. There's in the Carabao Cup. There's Burnley, and then Monaco and Brentford, and then we go into the international break. I think that is a much nicer just load of games. I think that is just something that is just going to be so nice after getting through this absolutely hellish period. But City have played so well. I think that is a run of games for City to really just start to gel even more. Obviously, until then we go into the second international break and it can kind of everything gets jumbled again. But before I was so nervous, and I'm honestly now just super, super optimistic for how City are going to look over these next four games.
Yeah, it's got to be 4 from 4. Honestly, I don't really care about the Carabao Cup game, and I think that the lineup is going to show you that the squad probably doesn't really care about it that much, because I'm predicting, and I think
And it's
anybody,
at Huddersfield too.
yeah, it's going to be a completely rotated side. I mean, you're going to see Mukasa, you might even see Mufuni. Like that's the like type you're getting Bob, Rico midfield like type. Is this? And I'm completely okay with that. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. It's more about getting good minutes in the legs of young players in a match like that. The games after that absolutely must be 3 from 3, in my opinion. Especially the Premier League games has to be 2 from 2. Especially
Yeah.
where we're at in the league and stuff like that. You can rise up this table quickly, and we can get back into the mix for everything we want to be in the mix for very quickly with a quick run of games. I know Liverpool are quite far ahead, but that could change in 2 weeks. And they got a tough run of games coming up. Anybody can drop points, so we really need to get back on it and really, I don't know. We've been showing the signs that you would want to show, but we need to really stamp it and reestablish who we are and yeah, just get the run of form going because I think that those are very winnable games. Obviously, Huddersfield is winnable because they're a lower level side, but then Burnley most likely relegated this year. Brentford lost a ton of players in the offseason. So, I mean, those are must win games. And I'm unsure if they're home or away, but it doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, I mean the Brentford match is at the G Tech, which hasn't
Foden
always
goal.
been the.
Absolutely. Lock it in right now. Place your bets.
It's so weird to think of Brentford without Thomas Frank because it's just the only frame of reference that I've had for them as a club, and so yeah, the amount of talent drain that there's been as of late, it is so hard to imagine what that's going to be like. And then Burnley, I don't know why my computer is just unable to give me what this is going to be. It's Burnley's at the Etihad, so that's going to be yeah, they did great in the championship, but I just don't think it's going to be anything too special.
That should be another rotation game, in my opinion, in terms of getting minutes in the legs of players who have had less minutes and possibly, I don't know. It'd be nice to give Rodri a full week or week and a half off until Monaco, if you could, after what he just went through with 3 games back to back, in terms of preserving him for later in the season. I really, really don't want to see him playing 65 matches this season. So, yeah, I mean, all these opportunities we can get to move him around or I don't know, rest someone like Foden or Doku, get some minutes out of the legs of someone like Doku would be outstanding. So I'm really looking forward to this stretch of games. These are my favorite stretch of games to where we can really lock in and try to develop our system. Especially this is like, in my opinion, basically our preseason, like in
Yeah,
terms of like really nailing down our tactics and how we want to play and stuff like that. And hopefully guys will be coming back fit. I saw in the FIFA ratings reveal video that Marmouche was walking around no brace, no crutches, huge. So hopefully that's a couple of weeks away. Turkey, it was 2 months, but sometimes Pep lies about these timelines. So
yeah,
he was moving around freely in the video too. He was walking and talking to FG in that video. So I think that we need to start getting some of these guys back. Ryan Aitnery is a really weird one because he was supposedly left out of international break for precautionary reasons, and he had played the match right before with no issue, and then he comes back and he's out for 5 weeks allegedly. So that's another one
yeah.
that
It's just
eyebrow
strange.
is definitely raised at that one. And then like Stones, he gets talked about. Oh, he might be out for a long time, and then he's just back in the lineup. So or in the squad, So and in the game today. So it's
Yeah,
just yeah. Hopefully this is a chance to build up some form.
yeah. I think that the preseason comment I think is a great way to put it. This is where they really start to churn and figure it out. And I feel like we're going to be here at the middle of October and or first week of October and just be in a much better mood.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, because there's I don't know. I had some thoughts today because I feel like we had such a good week. If you look at it at the 1,000 yard view or whatever, like you were saying at the beginning, win, draw, coming into a week to where we were going beforehand. Are we gonna sack the manager if we lose
Yeah,
2 of these
yeah,
matches? Like that's like where we're at. Like, are we gonna start off 1-4 in the Premier League? Like, is that what it's gonna be? And it didn't end up being that way. And I think that that's overall very largely positive. But I feel like a very large section of the fan base and I don't know football at large has viewed every one of these matches as in a negative lens for City. After United, it was well, that's not going to work against anybody else. And then after
yeah.
Napoli is like, well, we didn't play that good until they went down to 10 men, and then this match, it's we blew it at the end. But it's like how can everything, three negatives add up to a positive? But it really does feel that way to me. So hopefully we can
Yeah.
just keep stacking these positives.
Yeah. Alrighty. Look, I appreciate it. Once again, as always, thank you to Freddie. Thank you to Jordan. No, I didn't buy the channel. Alrighty. Appreciate it.
Every
See
week
y'all.
now, got to do it.
Yeah.
Peace.